unabashed,
the most unpredictable,
becomes a headline,
the most volatile,
outrageous behavior,
unsubstantiated narratives, a battle of personalities.
Welcome to Grand Tamasha. I'm your host, Milan of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. The 2019 Indian elections have come and gone, but there's still one lingering question that many election watchers are still asking. Why did we miss the Modi wave? Although many election analysts, journalists, political scientists suspected that the BJP would come back to power in the spring of 2019, many, if not most, failed to predict the massive mandate that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the BJP eventually won. Over the summer, I sat down with Prashant Jha, opinion editor of the Hindustan Times and author of the book How the BJP Wins, Inside India's Greatest Election Machine. Prashant is one of the few who picked up on the pro-Modi wave during the campaign, and he and I discuss why so many election observers missed the writing on the wall. Here's our conversation from the Hindustan Times studio in New Delhi. Prashant, nice to have you on the show.
Thank you, Milan. Good to be here.
In August 2017, you published a book entitled How the BJP Wins, Inside India's Greatest Election Machine. In that book, which recounted the BJP's 2014 general election victory and many of its subsequent triumphs and a couple of its defeats in state elections between 2014 and 2017, in hindsight, this appears to have been extremely prescient. You could not have predicted the future back then. But back in 2017, did you have a sense that 2019 would end in a second consecutive single-party majority for the BJP and Narendra Modi?
2017 was a long year. If you remember, Milan, the year began with UP and BJP's spectacular victory in UP. And then the book was substantially based on that. And when I was covering the UP elections and when I saw the mandate in UP, I did think that these guys are coming back. And there's no way you can stop them. But by the end of that year, you had the Gujarat elections, when the burden of a five-term anti-incumbency began to be visible. The rollout of the GST had an impact among BJP's own constituents. The impact of demonetization had become clear. And as you enter 2018, some of the bypolls and the setbacks in bypolls became visible. So I think my own view changed. And if I had thought in early 2017 that 2019 would be a cakewalk, by the end of 2017, I thought they will come. They're probably best positioned to come back. They will definitely be single largest. But will they have a majority? I was not as sure by the end of that year.
And that pretty much maps, I think, the conventional wisdom in Delhi, wouldn't you say, is that people felt, okay, they'll come back most likely, but not in the same way that they had before.
Yeah, I think that was the wisdom, and that just kept gaining ground through 2018 and culminate and that reached its crescendo with the defeat of the BJP in the state assembly elections at the end of last year.
So I just want to read some of the titles of the pieces you wrote for the Hindustan Times in the run-up to this general election. The emerging Modi wave in UP, the emerging Modi wave in Bihar among the young, the Modi appeal in Madhya Pradesh, what drives PM Modi's appeal. As you now know, many are saying now with the benefit of hindsight that a Modi sweep was inevitable, but there were relatively few who confidently and publicly wrote that a sweep was likely before the results came out. Help us understand, given these titles of, your reports from the field, what you saw on the campaign trail that allowed you to see something that was really not apparent to many, perhaps even most election observers.
I kept it simple. If once you're on the ground, you just listen. And if you are talking to 10 people, and if 7 of those 10 people are telling you that they want Modi back as Prime Minister, there is a very high likelihood that Modi would return as Prime Minister. When even those 3 who are not voting for Modi are motivated more by certain past loyalties to parties which oppose Modi rather than deep anger, then you can see that the opposition to Modi is not as energetic as the support for him. And in UP particularly, what I could see was that the social coalition that the BJP had constructed was firmly in place. The social coalition consisted of upper caste, it consisted of a range of backward community caste groups and a range of Dalit subcastes. That social coalition had propelled the BJP to victory in 2017. There was an additional challenge this time. The BSP and the SP, Mayawati's Bahujan Samaj Party and Akhilesh Yadav Samajwadi Party were together this time. But even with that, you could see that the BJP was in the race and BJP was putting up a formidable fight. fight. The seats may dip, but they would not get routed. In Bihar, if in UP 7 on 10 people were saying Modi, in Bihar 8 on 10 people were saying Modi, and the two who were not were Muslims or Yadavs, and Muslims and Yadavs who had been traditional supporters of the Rashtriya Janata Dal led by Lalu Prasad. So you could see that the other forces, the non-BJP forces, were not able to expand their support. The BJP had its social coalition intact, and what was holding it together was Modi's appeal. So I just reported what I saw. I must confess that I did not have the courage to convert what I could see anecdotally into the numbers that eventually it translated into, because we still, I think, were not sure whether 2014 was an aberration, and we were still thinking in what clearly are outmoded categories of politics, and we were still thinking about a fragmented polity. We were still thinking about how seats would inevitably reduce in states where they had dipped, where they had peaked last time. But if you just went by the ground mood, I actually now think that there was no need to travel outside Delhi. If you just take public transport in Delhi and talk to 30 people, 20 out of 30, 25 out of 30 people would tell you Modi. And these are people who are, and Delhi is a city of migrants. These are people who would come from outside. So it's just voices from the ground that got reflected in those reports.
But Prashant, let me push you on this a little bit further. I mean, why did so many of us miss the wave, right? I mean, this is a question that political scientists are asking, journalists are asking, lots of people are asking that. Even those of us who expected Modi to come back, and I put myself in that category, but I did not certainly see this kind of mandate that would beat even 2014. What do you think we were getting wrong? What were the signs that we were missing? Were we too trapped by history, by precedent, by our own biases? I mean, just reflect a little bit on what do you think were the blind spots?
I think the answer lies in your question. I think it was a combination of all those three factors. One was I think there were many observers who were trapped by history, and I don't exclude myself from that. But we were still thinking about the post 1989 normal of Indian politics, where regional parties are and remained extraordinarily strong, where national party attaining a majority had only been a one-time phenomena, which was 2014. We did not think that this could happen again. I think and as I mentioned in the previous answer, I think the fact that the BJP had peaked in so many states in North India and West India, I don't think many people anticipated that they could replicate that performance, and could not see that they could compensate for the inevitable losses in these states in regions where the BJP wanted to make a breakthrough. So they may have been willing to give a few seats to BJP in Bengal, definitely not 18. A few in Odisha, definitely not 8. A few in Northeast, definitely not 18 out of 25. But could not see the expansion that the BJP had made in the East. So I think it was that. It was also bias. I think many observers have a certain view of the BJP, and tend to conflate their analysis of BJP's prospects with the desire to see BJP defeated. And I think it's important to distinguish the two. One can agree or disagree with the BJP, but when you are analytically or objectively just seeing what the ground situation is, it's important to step back and let your biases not come in the way. I think there was another reason, which was that if you just looked at structural factors, particularly structural economic factors, it seemed like that this was not the kind of governance record that the electorate would reward, because there were very high expectations in 2014, and given the dip in growth rates, given the fact that unemployment persisted, may have even grown, given that there were serious and very credible reports of agrarian distress, we know that farmer incomes dipped. These were factors that people picked up and said that, look, objectively, how can these guys get the same mandate?
But they're not wrong, right? I mean, those were objective facts.
They were. But I think what in that process, I think we underestimated the power of some other factors which were also in play, and those factors included the kind of welfare delivery that the Modi government had been able to do on the ground. And I think the rural housing, electrification, toilet construction, and gas cylinders, I think all of it put together made Modi seem like an efficient administrator who had reached out to poorest Indian citizens and given them goods and fulfilled their basic necessities. I think we also underestimated the impact of PM Kisan, which was only announced in the interim budget. It was a support of 6,000 rupees in 3 installments to farmers below a certain who held land below a certain area, and only 4,000, in some cases 2,000, in some cases 4,000, had actually got into the hands of farmers. But I think that played a part in changing the optics. We underestimated, many people underestimated the power of nationalism. I mean, clearly the national security narrative post Pulwama and Balakot had a big role to play in projecting Modi as a strong, muscular leader who had given Pakistan the response it deserves, and who had also, in these past 5 years, quote unquote, increased India's prestige worldwide. I mean, this is something that I heard a lot. Now, and I think we just to sum it, I think we just underestimated the faith that people continue to have in Modi's intent and Modi's integrity. And the fact that he is seen as honest, the fact that he is seen as the most credible, given that the opposition did not have a prime ministerial candidate of the same stature, and a combination of all these factors. So I think it was this that came together.
But, the one you didn't mention is that maybe we underestimated the bankruptcy, the emptiness of the opposition in terms of offering an alternative path forward.
Absolutely. In hindsight, I mean, now it's strange that even 12 crore people, 120 million people have voted for the Congress, because this was a party that, let me be fair, the party showed energy over the past year. They had a decent manifesto. They brought out an income scheme which promised 72,000 rupees per year. Rahul Gandhi was an energetic campaigner this time, and he was not as much an object of mockery as he was the last time around. But this was a party where its senior leaders were saying that our best case is tripling our 2014 performance.
Which was 44 seats.
Which was 44 seats. So why would, if your aim is 120 seats and BJP's worst case was 220 seats, I mean, why would a voter take you seriously?
Right.
This was a party that was still reluctant to project Rahul as the Prime Minister, which was not clear whether the Congress would be in a subsequent government playing the role of an anchor as the leader, or playing the role of a supplement, where it would be supporting a regional leader as a prime minister if the regional parties had done very well. So I think there was the two big issues that they picked up. I did mention the income support scheme, but the income support scheme suffered from both a crisis of communication and a crisis of credibility. The scheme came too late. It did not reach the ground. And when it did reach the ground, many people just did not believe it because the Congress party lacks credibility. And I heard people tell me they did not give us 72 rupees in 70 years. Why would they give us 72,000 rupees? And the second big issue that Rahul picked up was Rafale. And it was very clear to anybody who was traveling on the ground, and I take no extra credit for it, which was that Rafale had zero traction. And out of the 2,000 people I may have met or in the course of my travels for 5 months on the ground, I did not hear a single person, and I'll emphasize this, not a single person mention the word Rafale.
Okay, Prashant, so you're one guy who's on the field, you're asking questions. The Congress party has a much larger apparatus. They came to a very different calculation. They thought this was working. You would hear it from Congress party sources all the time that we feel that this chokidar chor hai is actually resonating, but you disagree.
I disagree completely, and I remember coming back and telling friends in the Congress party, I mean, I wrote about it, and then I shared it with them that, I don't think this is working. And maybe they thought it was working because, when Rahul went to address rallies, it's important to remember he was addressing rallies of Congress supporters. These were people who were bussed in by candidates of the Congress in that constituency. So when Rahul said Chaukidar, they said Chor hai. And Rahul probably thought that, look, this is a mass slogan now. But this may have been a slogan that resonated with the party core, as it were. But it was definitely not enough. And it did not do anything to shatter the Prime Minister's image of integrity. In fact, the PM just picked it up and started a nationwide campaign of Main Bhi Chaukidar, and he appropriated the word. It was classic 2014 where Manishankar Iyer made this mistake of calling him Chai Wala, and he just appropriated Chai Wala and went back to his humble roots. This was not a mistake. This was a deliberate strategy of calling, pointing out that he was a chore. It was a direct allegation, and he owned it, and that resonated more than Chaukidar Chor hai.
But one of the things that you mentioned, Prashant, was efficient social service delivery, and I think of all the ex post justifications or explanatory factors, this is the one that you hear a lot of, especially among people within the BJP. Now, the BJP is certainly not the first ruling party to have used social service delivery government schemes to woo voters, but it seems to have done so way more effectively than its rivals. Why is that?
I think it's a combination of two things. One, I think India's delivery mechanisms have improved over the last 5 years. Again, credit to UPA where it deserves it, with Aadhaar and with the idea of direct benefits transfer in UPA too. The seeds of this were sown. The NDA government ran with it, and it used the socio-economic caste census of 2011 to make more to identify beneficiaries. It used Aadhaar, it used direct benefits transfers, it used the fact that there were Jan-Dhan accounts and therefore more people had bank accounts to transfer funds directly. So I think there was an improvement in delivery mechanisms which helped the BJP. The other point was that the BJP ensures that if they have done something, the targeted audience knows about it, and this they do through their party organization, and this they do through relentless propaganda and relentless media outreach. So I think the fact that Modi has delivered gas cylinders was something that was communicated every day in every campaign by every leader in every nook and corner of every constituency that the party was fighting in. And so, one, they delivered better, and two, they ensured that everybody got to know that the delivery happened.
And even if the state governments had some role in it, the credit was being claimed solely by the party.
Right.
And even if it's a BJP-controlled state government, the credit still goes to Narendra Modi, who's the man at the center. Let me fast forward to the present day. It's so apparent just being here this week in Delhi, where we're talking that the BJP enjoys complete dominance. The Congress is in a state of free fall. Opposition leaders from Mamta to Mayawati are on the back foot. Have we entered a new political era, which some analysts have called the second dominant party system? Can we say that now with confidence?
I think we can. I know that Rajni Kothari coined the Congress system as a term in 1970, and this was after 2.5 decades of uninterrupted Congress rule, and we are not there yet. But it was a different time. I think what we can say is that there is a new normal developing in Indian politics. That new normal is defined by BJP hegemony. The fact that the BJP has, in the context of a more federalized polity than India had been in the 60s or 50s, in the context of this fragmented polity where so many caste-based and regional-based formations had emerged in the last 30 years, the fact that BJP has been able to come to power twice, and this time with a bigger mandate at the center, and that BJP still controls the reins of power in close to 15 state governments, and is looking set to replicate its success in some of the state assembly elections which are due at the end of this year, I think can lead us, can get us to the conclusion that this is a dominant party system. And there will be electoral setbacks. This is not to suggest that BJP is not going to lose elections in the future. They will. Now, this is not to suggest that regional parties are going to. This is not an obituary of regional parties. I think they're going to remain. This is also not to say that the Congress is going to just fade away, as we discussed. If they got 120 million votes, they will also win. But I think for the foreseeable future, at least the next 5 to 10 years, we are going to continue to see BJP as the dominant party.
I think the point is, even if victories, losses come and go, the system is being defined in relation to where you stand against the BJP or for the BJP. And that was one of the critical core tenets of the earlier Congress system, right? Is that you would see waves for and wave in opposition to the Congress. I want to go back to your book for a second, because one of the things that you explain so beautifully is this unique partnership between the BJP party president Amit Shah and the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. How would you, to a layperson, describe the division of labor between these two men? And why has it worked so well, just from a purely political electoral standpoint?
Modi is the brand. Amit Shah is the man who ensures that the brand translates into votes and ensures that the very attractive brand is and customers who are attracted to that very attractive brand go and finally buy that brand. So it's that so while Modi has been the public face, and make no mistake, this was Modi's election. If it was not for Modi as the face, and if BJP candidates locally had to fight this election, the BJP would have struggled to get 150. So this was Modi's election. But to ensure that that image that Modi has got translated into votes through a robust organizational machine was what Amit Shah contributed, and I think that's the division of labor. So Modi was happy to put in the hours. Modi was happy to talk about his governance record. Modi was happy to give strong polemical speeches whenever required. But Amit Shah would have a role in telling Modi where to go, which constituencies needed him most, which states needed him most, where should the Prime Minister invest his energies in, which constituencies needed what kind of resources, how should other party leaders be mobilized, which were the swing constituencies which could come this way. I mean, that kind of micro organizational work. And ensuring that the party's members, the party's booth committees were all operational. The party was not short of funds. All of that was, I think, largely to do with Amit Shah.
So we know there's a transition coming up. Amit Shah has joined the government as the Union Home Minister. It's already been announced that he will hand over the reins of the party later this year, December, January, to a new BJP President, JP Nadda. Is there a danger, given what you've just said, that politically things could hit a rough patch because this dynamic duo, as it were, is moving on to something else?
I don't. JP Nadda has become the working president, but the formal elevation of that is still to be done. So it's probably going to be him, but that's not a that requires this formal ratification, which has not happened, as you said. I don't think Amit Shah is going to cede control completely. I mean, I think JP Nadda may be the president, but this is going to be a president who is not going to be entirely autonomous, and he would happily defer to Amit Shah's preferences when it comes to party affairs. So I think this is not going to be a conflictual relationship. I think there is no doubt in anybody's mind in BJP now that if Narendra Modi is number one, Amit Shah is number two, irrespective of the designation that he holds in the party or not. So JP Nadda would play his part in keeping the organizational machine rolling, but the big decisions will be taken by Amit Shah with a consultation with Modi where it's required.
So, I mean, in other words, it's sort of a burden-sharing agreement, right? And Amit Shah's taken on new roles, and he'll have someone who...
There is a one-person, one-post rule in the BJP, which is why Rajnath Singh had left last time and Amit Shah had taken over. But
yeah, you've been a reporter covering North India for many years now. Some political scientists have written that in the aftermath of the elections, that Mandal politics, right, the kinds of caste-based social justice movements we saw in the wake of the Mandal Commission in the late 1980s, that's now dead. It's reached a political saturation point. Would you go so far as to conclude that from the basis on these elections?
I'll answer that at two levels. Mandal politics represented the assertion and the emergence of backward castes and their desire to seek space in the political structure. I think that remains. In that sense, that process that Mandal unleashed is irreversible. And even the BJP has had to accommodate itself to Mandal politics. The fact that BJP today has become more of an OBC party than it ever was, the fact that from ticket, and this is reflected in their party appointments, this is reflected in their ticket distribution, this is reflected in their messaging, all of it shows that BJP has had to make peace with Mandal and has had to accommodate the forces unleashed by Mandal. So in that sense, Mandal is alive and will remain alive. But there were certain political forces that emerged out of Mandal, right? And this Samajwadi Party in Uttar Pradesh or the Rashtriya Janata Dal in Bihar are some of the prominent examples. Now, these parties began as wide umbrella formations. They began as parties of both the backwards, the Dalits. They ended up becoming, they ended up constricting in form. They became a party from a party of subaltern to party of backwards to a party of their particular subcaste to a party of the family. And I think this election and the previous election probably marks to us the limits of that kind of politics. So I don't think SP with only Yadavs and Muslims, where even some Yadavs may be defecting to BJP, or RJD with only Yadavs and Muslims, where again Yadavs may be defecting to BJP, can survive in the form that they did for 30 years. They will have to reinvent, they will have to find a new language and vocabulary of politics, they will have to widen their social alliances. They cannot just bank on identity-based grievances, the politics of resentment, which was very legitimate at one point, but which is that's not going to be enough.
So I want to end this conversation, Prashant, by asking you to reflect on some of the sources of vulnerability inside the BJP. We talked a lot about their strengths. We talked a lot about the opposition's weaknesses. But right now, we're in a scenario where we're all forecasting BJP hegemony as far as the eye can see. Not forever, but for the foreseeable future. What are the stress points we can identify sitting here today which could upset the status quo? Even if they don't materialize today or tomorrow or next month or next year, what are some of those things that remain challenges or contradictions or hurdles?
I'll point to two big social challenges. The first is that BJP has been able to get 303 seats to 20 million votes because people from every class of society have voted for BJP. It's the super rich, it's the middle class, it's the lower middle class, and it's the poor. So I think, and it's the poor, and within the poor there is a hierarchy. So I think that the BJP has been able to, in different degrees, win the votes of the multiple classes that populate India's complex class structure. Now, you don't have to be a Marxist to know that there is going to be inevitably a degree of class conflict in policy decisions. If BJP veers too strongly in favor of a certain kind of economic paradigm which favors, say, corporates or the upper middle class, there is going to be and without commensurate welfare benefits, there is going to be a backlash from the poor. If the BJP is seen as becoming only welfarist at the cost of growth, at the cost of jobs, at the cost of without paying attention to these dimensions, I think there is going to be a backlash from a restive younger population. It may not have happened this time, but which is still looking for opportunities. So I think the one challenge I would think that the BJP may face is sustaining this class coalition. The second is in terms of caste. The BJP has also been able to construct a caste coalition where it has won votes of almost every single broad caste formation, from upper castes, within upper castes, different subcastes, within the OBC community, different subcastes, barring, say, some Yadavs in UP or Bihar, or within Dalits also a substantial number of Dalits.
And Adavasis also.
And yeah, you're right, absolutely. Tribals to a very large degree. So, again, is it easy to sustain this? I don't think so. I mean, there are real contradictions even today on the ground in social relations between upper castes and OBCs, between OBCs and Dalits, between upper castes and Dalits. We saw this last year. We saw this when the Supreme Court diluted the provisions of the Prevention of Atrocities Act. There was a backlash from Dalit groups. The government restored the provisions through an amendment. The upper castes then went against BJP for having betrayed them. And we saw electoral implications of this in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan and in the elections. So in the state elections. So the BJP was able to then neutralize it by bringing an upper caste reservation, a 10% upper caste reservation. But this requires, as you can see, constant balancing and this constant negotiation. BJP is good at it, but at some point these contradictions will emerge. Politics was a vacuum, so I don't see the dominance not being challenged in some form. It could be challenged from within, it could be challenged from outside. But I think these are the two big fault lines I would point to.
The book is called How the BJP Wins Inside India's Greatest Election Machine, published in 2017 by Juggernaut Books. I encourage all of our listeners to get out a copy. It's probably the single best guide that's out there to understanding this version of the BJP 2.0 under Narendra Modi, and of course, Party President Amit Shah. Prashant, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Milan. Thank you for having me.
Grant Tamasha is a co-production of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and the Hindustan Times. You can find us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to rate and review. It helps others find the show more easily. For more information about the show and to find the writing we referenced on this week's episode, visit our website, granttamasha.com. Production assistance comes from Megan Maxwell and Rachel Osnos. Tim Martin is our audio engineer, and Lauren Dueck is our executive producer. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.